What is up, guys? Pie Muffin here, and today I mentioned that I was going to be doing this after Cold Steel 2. Well, I didn't mention it in an official video, but I talked about it. I think I talked about it on some streams, and I've talked about it on Twitter quite a bunch. Basically, long story short, I don't want to take too much time giving a synopsis of what I've been doing, but I went back and I played the 3 Trails in the Sky games and the 2 Crossbell Arc games for the, I probably should have mentioned from the beginning, this is a Trails video, and the 2 Crossbell games, because those are necessary in order to fully understand what goes on in Trails of Cold Steel 3, because I played the first 2 Cold Steel games, and then I was going to play 3, but then I was told, no, you have to play all these games first to fully understand everything you're going to see in Cold Steel 3. So I figured I'd make a little, I don't want to say really review, but just kind of like my thoughts and experiences on playing the Sky games. So this video will probably have spoilers here and there, so if you haven't played the games, this might not be the video for you yet. But I do want to talk about kind of my thoughts and experiences playing through the game, what I liked, what I felt kind of frustrating, just stuff like that. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not going to give like a synopsis of all 3 Sky games, but I will talk about the Sky games in this video, and then my next video, I will be talking about the Crossbell Arc games, so be on the lookout for that. Anyways, let's get started. I want to start off by saying I did not think I would enjoy Estelle's character as much as I did by the end of the 3rd game, because when you really start out, she's kind of, you know, she's definitely an airhead, which that doesn't change, but, you know, there's the difference between being an airhead that doesn't know when to take stuff seriously and one that does. Because by the end of the 3rd game, she's definitely still an airhead, you know, she'll act silly, but she knows when it's time to buckle down and get stuff done. But in the beginning of the 1st game, you know, even that first scene where she finds out that she's going to have to do paperwork to become a bracer, I was just like, are you kidding? You're complaining about that? So definitely in the beginning of the Sky game, I really wasn't too fond of Estelle at the beginning. I thought she was kind of funny with the way she acted, but, you know, a lot of the first game, especially in the first half, is essentially Joshua, you know, helping her kind of get around and figure stuff out. And that's what's actually kind of really good about this. You know, a lot of the first game, Estelle is basically being carried in terms of all this bracer duty by Joshua. So when he leaves in the 2nd game, or at the end of the 1st game into the 2nd game, she has to kind of learn to do these things on her own, and she's like, wow, I'm realizing how hard this stuff is on my own. You know, Joshua was always here to kind of guide me through this stuff, and I thought that was actually really good story writing right there, even though it takes an entire game to get to that point. But there's still growth in the 1st game. You know, by the end of the 1st game, there is a lot with Estelle, you know, kind of starting to get that growth. But the growth is mainly in terms of accepting her feelings that she's having for Joshua. You know, you get characters all throughout the games being like, just say it. And then at first she's like, no, we're just, you know, we grew up together, we're just siblings, and that's it. But then as time goes on, she's starting to realize, oh wait, no, I do feel something more. I don't understand this. And then by the time when she wants to confess it, that's when Joshua leaves due to the whole Ouroboros plot. So I thought that was really well written in the 1st game. And then in the 2nd game, obviously, it's time to bring Joshua back arc, which I thought was really cool as well. And this is where things start to get more interesting in terms of the Sky games, because you start to get more choices. I'm going to be jumping around, so I may go back to stuff I remember from the 1st game, because it has been a while. I don't want to say a while, but I think I beat the 3rd Sky game probably about a month ago now. I really should have made this review right away, so all the information was kind of fresh, so I am kind of going back a little bit after the fact. But there's a point in the story in the 2nd game where who was it? It was Sherazard and Agate were 2 options you had to bring with you while you were doing some bracer stuff and looking into Ouroboros and stuff like that. And I chose Agate to bring with me. And I found that very interesting because that definitely is the start of what we start to see in the future games where you are given a choice, and that choice kind of affects the interactions you get for the rest of the story. So, like, for a good portion of the story, you have Agate with you instead of Scheherazade, and Scheherazade's with, I can't actually, what was her? Annalise. I was trying to remember her name, the other bracer. So, whoever you don't choose ends up going with Annalise to go, I believe it was Annalise that was part of the other group, to kind of go do some stuff. And then you eventually meet up with them again later, but it's still kind of cool that that's when you start to get given that choice. And then I really love, and, this is something I love about the Trails games overall, is that every character, for the most part, has their arc. And if they don't have an arc in the game where you meet them, they eventually get that arc at some point. So Agate didn't get his true arc finished until the second game, but it starts in the first game. There was a lot he was kind of like holding back and stuff like that. And with Tita, I believe her arc's not done yet because she's still in Cold Steel 3, and there's probably still more to go with her character. But I feel like the beginning of seeing where her arc was supposed to go started in Sky the Third, when you got one of those, it was like the star, moon, and whatever doors, sun doors, where you got to see where she kind of wanted to go moving forward. So you do get and there's also this kind of split party thing that they kind of do. In the second game, there will be these parts of the story. There aren't many of them. I think there's only like 2 or 3 portions where you see what Joshua's doing, and then you actually control him while he's hanging out with the Capuas. So I thought that was cool too, that it wasn't just like, okay, we see Joshua at the end of the first game, and then we'll see him again, every time Estelle encounters him again. So there was actual story given to us as time was going on. And then what's really interesting, moving on to, like I said, I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm just going to talk about some of the cool stuff. I'm going to talk about Sky the Third now, just story-wise, then we'll talk about how I felt about the gameplay. So with Sky the Third, it was interesting because normally in a trilogy for a specific story, you have the same main character for 3 games. But with this, it was different. You had Estelle as the main character for the first 2 games. And then the main character for the third game was Kevin, because by the end of the second game, Estelle's story is done. They were able to stop Ouroboros' plot in Liberal. And she was able to basically have her relationship with Joshua. So there's really not much more story to tell there. Everything that Estelle's journey, she became a senior bracer, one of the youngest ones to ever exist. She got her boyfriend that she wanted, and that's all she really needed. So her story was done. So now we get to Kevin was introduced in the second game. He was a member of the Septian Church. He is what's known as, he's one of the Dominion. I believe he's the 5th Dominion. And, which we haven't got, even up to this point, all the games that have come out, even up to Hajimari, we still haven't been to ourselves, the holy, the Holy Land of Arteria, which is where the Septian Church is and where all the people from there are. But we do get to learn about Kevin's backstory, which it was actually, pretty... I liked what they did with the third game. I just feel like it was definitely shorter, and I feel like that's because a lot of the story was put in those, like I mentioned before, the Sun, Moon, and Star Doors. You get a lot of story on other characters. Like I mentioned, Tita's story kind of starts there. One of the doors kind of shows that she wants to be able to help she wants to be able to help Ren. And she feels like the only way that she can even reach Ren's level is if she pilots something that's similar to Patter Matter. So that's why she wants to help her parents with, working on these machines and everything. So even though it's like Kevin's story, in the world of like Phantasma and all that, A lot of other characters do get their kind of growth arcs there in some way. We get to see Scheherazad's past, which was really cool. I really liked seeing how her and Ina met. And then meeting Reese for the first time and learning about Kevin and Reese and their upbringing. You know, Kevin's story is actually pretty dark. You know, the whole thing with his mom basically thinking both of them should die so they don't have to suffer anymore. So she tries to choke her own son. That was pretty messed up. But, you know, with Rufina and Reese, you know, being brought into their family and then going into the church, I think it was definitely good for him. It's just obviously once his stigma activated, things got a little bit worse than they should have. But, you know, that's it. All just came with the territory, I suppose, as messed up as that is to say. So it was really cool seeing this arc where Kevin slowly started to open up to all the other characters we've known for so long. You know, all these characters could tell, you know, that he was struggling, that he was suffering with something, and by the end of the game, we definitely get to see him kind of move past that, which is really, really cool. So let's talk about gameplay. Gameplay is pretty similar to what you're used to in the Cold Steel games. I just feel like it's a lot harder because some of these, I want to say, broken mechanics that you can utilize in like Cold Steel 2 and onward, such as like stuff like, well, Burst was first introduced in the Crossbell games, but for whatever reason it was in Trails to Azure, but then they took it out for Cold Steel 1 and they came back in Cold Steel 2. So I found that interesting. So Burst is definitely one of those broken mechanics that is definitely helpful. Not being able to link definitely is interesting because you don't get that extra attack when you hit a break thing. So you are a lot more self-reliant when it comes to arts and stuff because you have to keep yourself alive. And, you know, like I mentioned in the first game, there's not a lot of times where you have a full party of 4. It's usually just Estelle and Joshua and, you know, maybe one other person. There are times where you have 4 characters, but for the most part, it's like 2 or 3 characters. So it's a lot more managing your characters being alive because it's more chances that the same character is going to be attacked over and over. So the gameplay was definitely harder. I feel like it was also a lot harder to... Because in the Cold Steel games, I feel like there's not as much distance between you and your enemy when the fight starts, but in the Sky games, I feel like you start like a mile away from your opponent, so if you are using a melee-based character, it might take them like 2 turns to even walk up to your opponent. Which did get tough at points, but then you have to work with your quartz, just get movement quartz and kind of make it so your character can move further distances. But early in the game, that did tend to be a pain there. Being able to explore the entire world, because that's another thing that's interesting. Obviously, the Cold Steel games are more confined in a school setting for the most part. You get more freedom in Cold Steel 2, and then from what I've heard, Cold Steel 4 will have more freedom. It's kind of like the first game is the school setting, second game is more freedom, third game school setting, fourth game more freedom. But in the Liberal games, the Sky games, you pretty much have the freedom to just kind of like run around. You run from town to town. There's no like quest line that, for the most part, that tells you, oh, you can't go to this town if you want to. It's not part of the main story. There are times where you'll be confined to a specific city or a specific region, but there's still a lot more freedom. Especially once you get towards the end of the game, you can run from town to town. So it's definitely more of an adventure game there. But I think overall, that's most of what I want to say here. Seriously, I'm... And I want to kind of talk about this, even though it's a Cold Steel 3 thing. I am so happy that I went back and played the Sky and the Crossbell games, because I just got a point in Cold Steel 3, for those who have played it, I just finished Chapter 1, I'm in the beginning of Chapter 2 right now with where I'm at. I just want to say I'm so happy I played the Sky and Crossbell games, because in Chapter 1 there's a part that most of the tail end of Chapter 1 has to do with stuff that happens in the Sky games, And when that music started playing from the Sky games, I definitely got super emotional. I was like, oh my god, this is bringing back so much. Even though it only been like a month since I played the game, I feel like this is stuff I've known about for years. So that was really cool there. But I think that's pretty much everything I want to say on the Sky games. Kind of a little ramble right there, and that's probably how I'll handle my cross-spell video as well. I don't want it to be super long. But I'm thinking about doing a live stream for Cold Steel 4 when it comes out. I've already started Cold Steel 3 on my own, so I'm probably just gonna, you know, catch up to that. But I'm thinking about maybe right when Cold Steel 4 drops, just doing a stream playthrough for that. Because I definitely would have loved to have caught my reaction to what happened in Chapter 1 on Cold Steel 3 on stream. I think that would have been a lot of fun for Trails fans to see my complete and utter meltdown. But we'll see how things go with that. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you've played the Sky games, what did you think of the Sky games? Expect my cross-spell video within the next day or two from when this one goes up. And that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe for more if you're new to the channel. I'll see y'all next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone.